Ask yourself a damn question. Is winning the only thing to you?
Sports today are not just played on the field. They're played every day, online, all over the world, by sports fans just like you.
Don't you dare breathe. That won't get you anywhere. If you don't think you're a winner, you don't belong here.
The Star Fantasy League Show puts you in control of your own team. Find out who to sit, who to start, how to play, and have your daily fantasy sports questions answered with your host, Jonathan Sprung, and co-host SFL CEO Zach Stanley and Nick Steblenko. The Star Fantasy League Show is on the air now.
Hello and welcome to the Star Fantasy League Show here on 105.5 The Team in Rochester. I am your host, Jonathan Sprung, joined, as always, by SFL CEO Ring the Bell. It's Zach Stanley.
More rain today, John. Isn't that just golden?
I just beat you to the first pun of the day. How do you feel?
Why did you say ring my bell?
Why?
It seems like you just kind of inserted that in there and didn't really have a plan for how it was going to come out.
I said ring the bell. It's Zach Stanley. We have a producer who's supposed to ring a bell there. I don't really know what he's doing. Ding! Okay. Wow. Thank you for that man-made bell. Nick Steblenko, please help us. We're drowning here.
No, I'm going to let you go. You're over the hill.
Isn't he gone too?
Yep.
Okay.
That's Bush.
Yeah, that is. Honestly, that pun was Bush League.
Your pun was Bush League. You came right out and stole the thunder right out from under everybody.
We're not talking about the Thunder today. It's the Lions.
No,
what are you
just
doing?
like, oh, man, there's Bell. I'm going to take the easy one right off the bat.
I know. I figured that I would throw you guys into it.
Come up with one for Orlovsky, and then we'll talk.
Isn't he the UFC fighter? Or is that the other Orlovsky? No? Nobody watches UFC?
Boo.
I never watch UFC.
I don't like it, I'll be honest. Anytime I get stuck watching it with people, I'm like, why is this a sport?
I don't find it very appealing.
Why is this a thing?
Do we have to talk, John? Do we have to have a conversation about what is a sport and what is not a sport in your eyes?
Oh, great. What are you going to call not a sport now?
Well, you have a nice shirt on there today, John.
Yeah, I actually do have a Steel Cage podcast shirt on.
Yes, you do.
You guys can listen to that. That's probably a show
Steel
that people
Cage,
listen to.
that's wrestling, right?
I don't call that a sport. Who calls that a sport? He's trying to get me to say that wrestling is a sport. It's not.
Well, at least you're aware of that, and you have a good time doing your wrestling stuff, so, I can't complain about it.
And Nick actually is a closet wrestler.
I like that shirt. It's got a little vintage look to it.
Yeah, you should buy one. They're $19.99 on the internets.
They're $20?
Yeah.
$20?
The shirt alone is $20. The printing is free. Look, they have no idea what to do with this information.
That shirt is $20 without the print?
I got it for free, but...
Well, I would hope so.
Yeah, on the internet, on a shop that I'm not going to mention on the air because that's just shilling, and I'm not going to do that. Not going to do it.
Well, we got our SFL shirts pretty cheap.
Yeah?
And they're very soft. I'm wearing one right now, and so is Nick.
They are. Yeah, that's a little weird. You guys matched today.
We're supporting the show. You're supporting some other show you do.
That is correct. I'm on it. Whatever it happens, I'll have my own shirt pretty soon. All right, we are talking about the Detroit Lions, Tigers, Bears. Which team is this?
It's hard to talk about the Tigers right now, even though they got a big win last night.
Yeah, before we get to the 2014-15 Detroit Lions, we have to talk about some news and notes across all sports. And, of course, the big news, yet again, is manufactured by the four-letter. Brian Hoyer will be starting for the Cleveland Who Cares?
Well, I don't know if this one was manufactured so much as the riotous circus around it.
Right, it's the story of the day.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It is the story of the day because they make it that way. It's just a preseason decision about a starting quarterback. Like, how many teams are making these same decisions and they're not completely blown out of proportion?
You've got to admit, though, we've reached the dog days of August.
That's true.
There's really not that much coming out right now.
Well, why do you think we spent the first 5 minutes of the show talking about wrestling? There you go. There's the reason right there.
Isn't now when they start solidifying camp battles? Now is when all the news happens.
Well, yeah, the roster cutbacks come in the next week or so, right? But it's people that nobody cares about, really. That's kind of what it is.
Right. I think that's kind of the issue.
All right, I guess.
And this is the biggest camp battle that everybody's talking about.
Yeah.
It's if you listen to certain news outlets, it's the biggest camp battle to happen in the last ever.
Yep.
I think it should be all about Blake Bortles, but that's just me.
See, actually, that's what I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on. I want to compare that situation in Jacksonville to the one that's completely blown out of proportion. I mean, do you feel like Blake Bortles is the one that should be starting since he seems like the more NFL-ready quarterback as opposed to Johnny Manziel, who's just this project kid that's brought in to run around and look pretty and do weird things?
To answer that question, yes. As far as how these two teams have handled everything, they both botched it. They both screwed it up right from the beginning.
Should they have chosen the opposite quarterback? Like, should Jacksonville have just said, you know what, screw it, we'll take Johnny Manziel, sit him for a year, and then
what Jacksonville should have done, I like that they took Bortles and they stuck to their guns, but what they should have done is not said anything. They shouldn't have said, no, he's not going to play this year. Oh, wait a second, we're going to give him some first-team reps. Oh, by the way, he's going to be starting. I guarantee he starts by week 6 at the very latest. They're going to renege on this whole thing, and they're going to regret it, and they're going to look like fools, just like Cleveland.
He could still start at the beginning.
He could, absolutely.
All right, so how do you think Cleveland botched it?
Just by allowing the circus to begin and continue around Johnny Manziel.
So what's the approach that they should have taken?
Well, first of all, they shouldn't have drafted him.
Yeah,
that was my opinion.
That's number
they should not
one.
have drafted him. And then number 2, they should have pulled him in right from the beginning and said, listen, I know you. We know you like to have a good time. We know that you like the media spotlight, but that just can't fly. And then you give him the reasons for why it would be better for him to behave appropriately rather than just any other 21-year-old kid.
Don't you think they do that?
I want to sum his speech up in less words than he just said. Bring Johnny Manziel and say, stop being a dickhead. Mm-hmm. That's what you should say to him in the pregame meeting. Just say it to him.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to say that on the air?
100% allowed to say it on the air.
Okay.
I heard Jim Rome say dickhead. That's why I said it.
Okay.
And he's on this station, so if we get in trouble for it and he doesn't, I'm going to get mad.
Shout out to Rome.
The problem that I have is I really wouldn't know what to do in this situation. If I took Johnny Manziel, which I wouldn't have.
Never.
You put him in there and you say you're going to compete for the spot. There were a lot of people out there. And I read Mike Florio last night tweeting on Pro Football Talk that they should have just said it was his job to begin with, and they'd be in a better preparational situation right now. I don't understand that because this guy was said to be behind Brian Hoyer. He's competing for the job, and he's still acting like a clown.
Yep.
So what happens if you say, hey, you're God's gift to earth just like you think you are. Here's the starting quarterback job for the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It could have gone even worse, but that doesn't change the fact that it's gone terribly so far. I mean, Hoyer definitely deserves an opportunity. He didn't get a fair shake at it last season, and what he did show last season was that he was better than what the Browns had. But at the same time, they drafted this quarterback in the first round. This is the 3rd time that they've drafted a quarterback in the first round with their 2nd pick in the first round, oddly enough. And then they continue to do the same thing over and over and over again.
But on the same plane, you can't draft a guy like Johnny Manziel, if that's what you're going to do, and then go to your fan base that is purchasing more jerseys than any other player and say, this guy doesn't have a shot at starting. So, I mean, what exactly are you supposed to do?
Well, if you're going to draft a quarterback in the first round, you should play him. You should plan on playing him. I just don't understand why you wouldn't. I mean, Blake Bortles should be playing. They said he's not going to play. Screw up, whatever. If he does play, great, awesome. Johnny Manziel, you drafted him in the first round. That means that you have a belief that this guy is good enough to start, be ready to go from day one. He is not. And they're screwing it up.
We've spent a lot of time talking about quarterbacks for teams that are in absolute turmoil right now. Let's go to a team in the Detroit Lions that have a franchise quarterback who is a potential top 5 fantasy quarterback every single season, Matthew Stafford. Let's talk about how badly this team just crapped the bed last season. They started out 6-3.
Love it.
But at the end of the season, they decided to go 1-6, and I don't think they scored over 20 points in that span.
Yeah,
I think they did once.
They lost their last 4 games, and it was just a beautiful thing to watch from my perspective.
Okay, yes. As a Green Bay Packer fan, you loved it. But remember when we said we'd be objective?
Listen,
I don't think you're able to do that.
I told you, I love the Lions and I love the Vikings. I hate the Bears. I love them because they just find a way to screw everything up.
Yeah,
the Lions had a firm grip on first place. They were headed to the playoffs.
And Aaron Rodgers out at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah, Rodgers came back in 17. Like, you had 3 games. You had to win 2 of them before Rodgers came back.
All right, but let's talk about this team, what they did last year from a fantasy perspective, because Matthew Stafford, 4650 yards, 29 touchdowns, another 2 on the ground. Reggie Bush, although he kept getting benched for some reason, still managed to have over 1,500 total yards, 7 touchdowns. Joique Bell, a little bit less than that. He had a little over 1,200 yards and then 8 touchdowns. And then Megatron played 14 games and killed it, 1,500 yards, 84 catches, 12 touchdowns. He finally stopped, just getting tackled at the 1-yard line.
So, I mean, I think the overarching question is how with such a potent offense, how can the Lions not overcome their divisional opponents and make it to the playoffs, right?
Their defense wasn't great.
I think that is the big problem when you saying that, is that this team over the last several years has been in a position in a lot of these drafts to pick up top defensive guys, and they have, and for whatever reason, putting it all together hasn't really panned out.
See, I don't know that that's the case.
Really?
I think
all they have is a pass rush.
I think I agree with you there. They also did finish 6th against the rush, so teams can't run on them.
Well, yeah, because have you seen the guys they have stuffing the run?
Yeah,
Nick
yeah,
Fairley and
absolutely.
Dominican
Big
Sue.
bodies,
It's
absolutely
just gross.
My thing is, does anybody ever really look at Matthew Stafford other than the big numbers that he puts up? Does anybody ever look at the way that he
might
plays?
be one of the most inconsistent quarterbacks, and he kind of acts like a college quarterback. That's how he plays.
He doesn't complete more than 60% of his passes. 58.5% last year, 59.8% the year before. That's not good for an elite quarterback. That's not close to good. He should be in the mid-60s, and that's a big problem. He has over 15 interceptions the past 3 seasons.
But how often has there really been anybody there besides Kelvin Johnson?
No,
that is a big problem.
That's fine.
I
get what you're
everybody
saying
has wanted more out of Pettigrew than they ever got.
Yeah.
And then backing up with guys like Nate Burleson and Broyles and like who is he even throwing to? They double team Megatron, and then
who was Randall Cobb before he was made into a good receiver?
We all know that Matt Stafford isn't Aaron Rodgers.
Well, and that's my point. That's what I'm saying is everybody said, Matt Stafford is definitely up there in terms of fantasy relevance, but as a leader of this team, when does he get called into question?
Yeah, I still think he just seems like a college quarterback to me. Like he always seems like a first or second year guy that hasn't really put it all together yet.
He can gun it. He has over 4,000 yards.
He seems like Jay Cutler.
5.
Yeah, that sounds about
comparison.
right.
I would agree.
All right, do you guys think that it's going to be helpful that they got rid of Jim Schwartz, who had one of the weirdest team cultures I've ever seen? He just seems like an angry guy who didn't really lead by example. He was angry on the sidelines. The team seemed to just take on his personality, and they were just punks.
Yeah, I would say their ringleader is Sue. You cannot reel that guy in. There's no reeling him in.
Well, I mean, they have Jim Caldwell now, who is a former quarterbacks coach who took on a head coaching position. Who I don't really think he wanted that. Didn't he basically just get thrown into it?
Yeah, I mean, I would want a head coaching position in the NFL.
But it didn't. He never seemed comfortable in that Indianapolis head coaching position.
I get what you're saying, but I mean, he did do pretty well. He did a pretty good job.
He also had Andrew Luck when he came into the league.
I don't know. I would say whatever. I mean, I think he should command a little bit more respect.
He earned it.
Yeah, absolutely.
He did earn it, but he also has one of the most stone-faced sideline faces I've ever seen. He doesn't move. He doesn't blink.
He's composed.
Sure, we'll go with composed. I will go with a statue.
Rock solid.
Yeah, you know what? That works. I've never seen Jim Caldwell move. I don't expect to this season. All right, coming out the break, we are still talking the 2014-15 Detroit Lions, and you're listening to the Star Fantasy League show on 105.5 The Team.
The Star Fantasy League show. Information is key to being a successful fantasy team owner, and the guys have all the updated info you need right now. Okay, fantasy sports fans.
There's a letter in your mailbox.
Time to dig into Donald's mailbag for your questions and comments.
Read the mail, read the mail, read the mail.
Jump in the game. Send your questions and comments to the Star Fantasy League's team by tweeting at SFL Show.
We are back on the show. You can still tweet us at SFL Show if you want to get involved with the 2014-15 Detroit Lion Talk, because we will tweet you during the show about how much we love Reggie Bush. That's not true at all.
I like Reggie Bush.
Do you?
Yeah, and I think Zach and I have differing opinions on that subject.
Yeah, this will be a little interesting because during this segment we're going to go over the fantasy value and average draft position of all of the relevant Detroit Lions, but that's coming up later in the segment. First off, let's go over what this team did in the offseason. I mentioned Jim Caldwell being a major, major upgrade just from a personnel standpoint because Jim Schwartz is a basket case.
Yeah, I'm really, really interested to see what he's going to do with Ndamukong Suh. I mean, the guy has really been he's been amazing. He's a worldly talent, but he's been cancerous in the locker room. He's been terrible because he keeps getting suspended and fined and brings a negative attention. If you can be the greatest player in the world, but if you're a negative player and you just bring negative attention, not going to bode well for the team overall. So I'm curious to see what he can do with him.
Just some coaches just need to be in their strong core areas. I think Jim Schwartz is one of those guys that he was able to make the jump from defense to the big picture, but maybe that's just not the position for him. It certainly seemed like it wasn't. And we've seen a lot of coaches go, a lot of offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators go up to that position and then go back down, and they're just fine where they are again. So,
yeah, I mean, it makes sense. You have to give it a shot, but I think he will not get a head coaching position ever again.
Ever again?
He handled it so poorly.
Hang on a second. Norv Turner has always been a great offensive coordinator, but he has been given a couple of shots at being a head coach.
To be fair, though, he's had a couple shots where he's done really well, and then he just can't get it done in the playoffs. That's the difference than Jim Schwartz, who couldn't even get there once.
Well, I mean, yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I don't think he'll get another coaching job either, honestly, coaching job.
All right, so what else did this team do in the offseason? Because they spent a really, really high draft pick. We talked about it. They could have got defense. They didn't. They went with Eric Ebron instead. They got a little bit of safety help, but they also lost something. They got James Ahedebo from the Ravens. But that secondary is pretty broken still. They have a bunch of young, unproven guys out there who basically last year were terrible. They were 23rd against the pass, and I don't know. Do you see that being salvaged at all?
Well, the other thing that you got to remember, they play against the Bears and the Packers twice each. So passing numbers are going to be a little bit, I guess, inflated just a little because they're playing against two fantastic quarterbacks.
This team's always playing up to high points against everybody.
Well, I don't know.
They also score. They also score quite a bit.
They score a lot. Yeah, they usually win their games in shootouts.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. I mean, yeah, I don't see a lot of improvement coming. They used their first pick, which, I didn't have a huge problem with it when it happened, but they used their first pick on an offensive player, and they didn't try to pad that. They were 23rd against the pass. I just don't see that getting much better, if at all.
How many tight ends do you actually need on a team? They had a Joseph Fourier who had 8 touchdowns, 3 in one game last season. He had like 19 catches. What are you doing there?
I think the feeling was that Ebron was going to take them to just give them a whole new tool on offense.
But I mean, they spent we mentioned the terrible third or second receivers they used to have, and now they went out and they actually got Golden Tate to be their big name second receiver behind Calvin Johnson.
It's certainly possible that Ebron could, and the addition of Golden Tate could make this one of the most potent offenses in the league. They've got 2 great running backs, but with most tight ends, you see a learning curve. It takes time for them to develop their blocking game. It takes time for them to develop their whole game. And, I mean, I think you're looking at a second-year, third-year potential breakout for him. I don't think it's coming right now.
All right, now that you mentioned that, I actually want to go to the biggest offseason question for this team. What type of production can we expect from Matthew Stafford with all of his new weapons you mentioned and an offensive-minded head coach in Jim Caldwell?
From a fantasy perspective or a real NFL perspective?
Both.
Okay, from a fantasy perspective, I think he's locked in as a top 5 quarterback now. I don't think there's any question. No matter, I mean, I know I said earlier, he does have some trouble completion percentage-wise, but they throw the ball so much, and now he has a legitimate number 2 in Golden Tate. Both of the backs are going to be utilized, and even if Ebron has a slower learning curve than what is hoped from him, he's going to be great. I mean, we're talking 4,500 yards easy.
Yeah, he had 371 completions last season, which is a big number for PPR. But that was with a completely makeshift set of tight ends, wide receivers that were injured all year. Basically, he had 110 receptions to his 2 running backs.
Yep.
So if that can go up with the receivers being healthy and actually decent this year, I don't see any reason he's not top 3 in completions. Because I think he was right outside top 4 with that 371 number.
Yep.
If it gets closer to 400, he's a PPR dominator for his wide receivers.
And you've still got Pettigrew. It's not like...
Yeah, Pettigrew's not horrible. He's a
right. That's still an asset. It's still a tool to have out there.
That is true. All right, you want to move on to some camp battles for this team?
Yes,
absolutely.
Wow. Okay, I know where you want to go here. We mentioned Eric Ebron. I'm assuming he's probably going to get a go of it if you spend a top 10 pick on him.
Well, yeah.
Or was he 12? Was he 10 or 12?
He was number 10.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I think he'll get his time out there. They're not looking for him to do a whole lot of blocking. So when he comes out in offensive sets, the problem is that he's been dropping a lot of balls in camp.
Yeah, I think that will change as time goes on. He's just getting used to a new NFL offense.
He's used to a sidearm quarterback too.
He may not see a lot of statistics early on. I think it's I don't know. It's kind of shocking and difficult to me where he's being picked. I mean, I can't pick him where he's being picked.
I don't think I can draft him at all.
I would say the fact that he is being drafted as ridiculously early in the 13th round for a guy that may not even be the number 1 guy, that's a problem.
Yeah, I think one time I was in a 20-round draft, and I think I took him in like the 18th round, and I felt pretty bad about it.
Really?
Yeah, so I just don't see him panning out. If he pans out, it's going to be in the second half of the season, statistically.
Yeah, I mean, if he's your backup and you get him in the last round as a kind of, oh, hey, my first guy's pretty good, but if this guy, like you said, comes on in the second half, then maybe you can trade him. Or you can trade your starting tight end, whichever you want. All right, so the big battle we obviously want to talk about, I see you guys chomping at the bit, is Bell versus Bush.
I got Bush.
And you got Bell, right?
I got Bell by a landslide.
Okay.
By a landslide.
I'd like to know why it's by a landslide, because I understand that Reggie Bush was getting benched at the end of last season, but in 14 games overall, he had over 1,500 combined yards. That's not a fluke.
How much did Bell have?
He had 1,100 in 16 full games. I know. I understand he had a little bit less, 300 less, 2 less games. They claim they're going to go to a more of a rushing-based offense this season. I don't really.
All right, well,
why.
let's get the obvious out of the way. They do have a new scheme coming in with a member of the former Saints coaching staff, and obviously we know what happened in New Orleans. They had 3-4 running backs at a time that they would be able to utilize. Here they have 2, and Reggie Bush, in my opinion, still has a plenty in the tank, and he's the kind of unique talent that allows you to do all sorts of things between the 20s. Inside the 20s, I think Joique Bell has a little bit of an edge just because he's a little bit shorter, but he's got about 20 pounds on Bush.
Yeah, he's more of a bruiser than Bush.
I think he will take away the goal line work, which is a little bit troubling. Other than that, though, how can you argue with 1,500 yards out of that guy?
Okay, so I've got 53 and 52 catches in the past 2 seasons from Joique Bell. I've got 9.8 yards per catch last year, over 2 yards after being made in contact, coming off the run. I just think that this guy is a very high-quality back, and I think he's going to be the main source of attack for hard running. I don't think they're going to put Reggie Bush in as many of those positions as maybe they have in the past couple years as Bell has developed. And you're right, exactly. He is the touchdown vulture of this team. He's not a vulture because he's good enough to be the primary back, but he is going to be the guy that they go to down there. So I'm getting catches, I'm getting touchdowns, and I'm getting a guy that is being drafted in some cases far below Reggie Bush.
Yeah, I know that. I definitely understand what you're saying. I think Bush is a little bit of a stretch at his ADP. He's in the 3rd round. I would rather see him in the 4th. I would take him as a second running back, but I still wouldn't feel bad about it. I would feel great about it because they're still going to find ways to get him the ball.
You know what
they're not just going to eliminate him.
You know what the funniest thing about this entire conversation? We're talking about our mock draft we've been doing all week on the Star Fantasy League show. Bell and Bush went back to back in the last pick of the 3rd round, first pick of the 4th round in our mock draft. I feel like that's a little correct for Bush, but way too early for Bell.
See, I mean, if Zach's correct, though, then I think that's the perfect spot to take him. I mean, I think you can get him in the 5th round, though.
What are you
but
expecting?
I don't know. I just don't know if that's true.
I was going to say, what are you expecting from these 2 guys? Are they your RB1? Like, if you wait until the 4th round to get or I guess late 3rd round to get your first running back, are you comfortable with Joique Bell being your number 1 running back?
Yes.
Wow. All right.
Well, maybe not. So if I get him as my first running back?
So I'm saying if you go wide receiver, and you're in the 3rd round
I wouldn't
late
take
and
Joique
he's
Bell
there.
in the 3rd round.
That's what I'm saying.
Because I've seen Andre Ellington fall into the 3rd round.
Really?
Yes. I've seen Rashad Jennings later in the 4th round.
So
before.
are you okay, let's say those 3 guys are on the board for you in the 3rd round. Ellington, Rashad Jennings, and Joique Bell.
I'm taking Ellington, then Jennings, then Bell. Yes.
Okay.
Just because I would rather take a running back that I think is going to get the majority of the share. I look at that the same way with Bush. I just like the chance. I like the chance of Joique Bell staying healthier overall.
Yeah.
And I like the chance. I like the fact that he still gets a lot of catches. And I like that he's going to be the guy getting in the end zone a lot of the time.
I don't get where the landslide thing comes from. You think it's going to be a landslide?
I think based on the ADP, it's a landslide.
Okay. That's a completely different thing.
I think
fantasy,
you're going to see a 50-50 or a 55-45 kind of split between
Well, I mean,
these 2 backs.
the
And I
fact-
think there's going to be plenty to go around.
The fact that these guys almost combined for 3,000 yards between them last season means that they're both fantasy viable options. It just all depends on that silly little 3-letter number thing, ADP, where you're seeing these guys go. They could just be numbers. If you're seeing them go differently in the leagues you're picking in, sure, you could get Bush a little later, you could get Joique Bell a little later, and then you're okay.
And I think Joique Bell is currently undervalued.
I guess that is what it comes down to.
That's what it comes down to, yes.
All right, so this seems
I'm
like
licking my chops at drafting Joique Bell in the 5th round.
in the 5th round. Yeah, if you can get him, okay, that's where he is going right now. I see him early 5th round, 51st pick overall. So are we going to do a little bit of a thing? I know we have season long.
Thing?
Yeah, you guys.
Yeah,
wagering.
I mean, if he wants to go head to head, Bush versus Bell.
50-50 PPR.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would absolutely take Bush in that.
Okay, fine. I'll take Bell.
I am so curious.
Bush
here.
goes down in week 2.
No, see, yeah, great. Then you'll just be taking that one at the bank. I'm not worried because the benching issue happened last year under Jim Schwartz, who's a nut job, like we've mentioned a million times. I'm hoping that Bush gets in good with the Caldwell era and actually manages to stay on the field.
Still needs to hang on to the ball.
Yeah, I know. God, Bush, just 2 hands on the ball. How hard is this?
2 hands.
It really isn't that hard. All right, coming after the break, we're still talking ADP for the Detroit Lions, and we are doing our mock draft for the 3rd day, round 7 through 9 when we come back. And you're listening to the Star Fantasy League show on 105.5 The Team.
Play fantasy sports for cash prizes. Join the top daily and weekly fantasy leagues in the country at starfantasyleagues.com. Now, back to the Star Fantasy League show with Jonathan, Zach, and Nick, only on The Team.
We are back, and somehow we're still discussing the Detroit Lions. Nick, I thought you were going to kibosh this segment early.
No way, man. I love talking about these fools.
I am a lion.
Really? Are we going to roar?
Sure.
Great. For some reason, you guys have been singing pop songs all throughout the breaks on today's Star Fantasy League show, and I have no idea why.
Oh, yeah, we were just singing Hillary Duff.
Great.
I'm almost doing it in my subconscious now.
Yeah, it's a little weird. Actually, you know what the funny thing is? It does work. I think this is in your subconscious. It is Wednesday, and we did dub this Musical Wednesday. What are we singing?
Whimsical Wednesday.
Whimsical Wednesday on the
Whimsical
Star Fantasy League
Wednesday.
show. I like that. All right, before the break, we were talking about the running back battle of all ages, Joique Bell and Reggie Bush. We've yet to talk about the 2 biggest guys on the team, and that would be that Megabot guy. What's his name?
Calvin.
That's right. Calvin Johnson, Megatron. He is going in PPR ADP as the number 5 overall selection. Man, I feel like that's really early.
I mean, I don't know.
I can't be mad at anyone for picking Calvin Johnson because he is steady as she goes.
He only played 14 games last season. If he plays a full 16, he probably beats out Josh Gordon for the league lead again.
Oh, most likely.
12 touchdowns, 1,500 yards in 14 games. I mean, you're getting everything you need right there.
He's still in his prime too. It's I think,
and he's going to get some pressure taken off.
I was surprised. Is he like late 20s, right?
Yeah.
I was surprised. I saw his age, and I was
he was
like,
drafted in 2007.
I
Remember we were talking about this earlier.
I want to say this is
I
think this is like his 8th or 9th
I think
year
he's
in the league.
28.
No, he was drafted. Yeah, so if he was drafted in 07, that would make it year number 7, right? Yeah. So
the funny thing is
the same draft as Peterson.
Yeah, the funny thing is we do have the internet, so the internet allows me to look up these things while we talk, but I'm so lazy I'm probably not going to do it.
Yeah, but I like to use my brain. I like to make sure that it's still there.
Well, the good thing is he was drafted in 2007. That makes him 28 years old.
You know who else was drafted in that draft?
Who?
Jamarcus Russell.
Who? Wait, who's? Oh, was that the guy that liked
It's just so
the
funny
sauce?
to me. It
He
is
liked the
so
sauce?
funny to me.
All right, so we are talking about Megatron. The top 4 picks in the draft are pretty much locked in no matter where you're drafting, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what order they are. Yeah, you're getting a running back in the top
Forte,
4.
Charles, McCoy, and Peterson, somewhere in that order.
If I'm looking at Eddie Lacy and Calvin Johnson, I have a difficult decision on my hands. I have to be honest. I think it's just boils down to what kind of approach you want to take.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I think we've talked about this a ton, but I would take Eddie Lacy in that situation just because I would love to have a workhorse running back. I agree with you, though. You can't fault anybody for taking Calvin Johnson. I've seen people take him number 1 overall. I know. That's not my strategy, but you got a guy that you know is going to be a stud.
See, the problem with that is where I've been seeing elite wide receivers go in the 2nd round. And the fact that running backs are so short this season because there's a lot of these weird running back by committee situations and even like weird split situations that are not really determined yet. I have trouble not selecting running back if it's the option there.
But here's the thing: look at it this way: if you get Calvin Johnson in the top 5 picks, coming back, you're gonna take another wide receiver, running back, maybe do the same in the 3rd round. But then in the 4th round, you have the opportunity to grab Stafford, and you can double down. There's not a whole lot of opportunities like that with an elite quarterback and an elite wide receiver like this. You really get a chance to double down on your points every single week.
It can be volatile, but this is probably one of those situations where it's really not.
Yeah, it's
not. Like whenever you do that, you always have a chance of a bad week here and there. But usually with these guys, one will pick the other up.
Well, and the fact that their two quote unquote running backs are 50-plus catch guys, it's always just number. You're getting numbers there every single week, especially, Stafford likes to throw the little dump downs to Joique Bell or Reggie Bush.
Stafford likes to throw a lot.
That's what I'm saying. You're getting there. Like I said, there was almost 400 receptions last season. That was including 2 games missed from both Megatron and Bush. So
I'm really surprised that those two running backs got almost 400 carries between two of them, way they throw the ball.
All right, the last guy we need to talk about, obviously, actually there's 2. Stafford going late 4th round. He has the potential to be a top 5 quarterback. If you miss out on the top 3 and he's sitting there and you still don't have a quarterback, you kind of have to take him, right?
I think he's locked as a top 5. I think that's a guarantee.
He's
You're
just gonna
guaranteed.
Yeah, he's gonna have the
you
chance.
Don't think so?
He's gonna have
You're
the chance to
giving
get
me
those
the
numbers.
He's giving me the look.
I just think there are guys that are down there that have that type of potential, and for me to spend my 4th round pick on him or early 5th round, I have a lot of trouble doing that.
Well, I do too, but at the same time, think about that situation again. If you have the opportunity and you have Calvin Johnson,
okay, let's say that I don't.
What do you mean?
If I don't have
Calvin Johnson, I wouldn't do it. That's me personally.
Where would you take him? What would be the point of I cannot overlook this for you?
6th round.
Okay. No quarterback.
You cannot, because it's 6th, 7th, 8th round. That's when those second-tier quarterbacks start going. The guys that you think, yeah, these guys have a chance to be a top 5 quarterback. Yeah, the 6th round, you cannot ignore it anymore.
All right, perfectly. 6th round's where we're taking Stafford. How about Golden Tate? Last guy on the offense I'm interested in. He's going early 7th round now.
I can't believe this.
He's going this late?
Yeah, I can't believe it. I would expect him to be going in the 5th round. I think he's going to have the best year of his career,
all right,
no doubt.
Can I do some stupid math here, not even worrying about the fact that he's a second receiver behind the best receiver in the NFL?
Sure.
If we have 371 completions last season for Matthew Stafford, you take away 100 for Calvin Johnson and 100 for the 2 running backs. That's 171 combined between Tate, maybe Ebron, maybe Pettigrew. Why can't he get at least 75 catches there?
Yeah, and more yards and more touchdown looks.
I think 7th is a joke. Like, if you can get him in the 7th round, this is what I'm talking about. The depth at wide receiver this season, he's going overlooked here. 6th, if he's around, maybe. But 7th, no-brainer.
I think, if you see him in the 7th round, I think he's definitely somebody that you need to look at. But there are a lot of guys down there that you can look at. I mean, Nick, you're locking him in over Torrey Smith?
No, he loves Torrey Smith, remember? He loves Torrey Smith.
I like Torrey Smith.
So
he said Torrey Smith was slipping. That's the thing.
Yeah.
He seemed to be
I'm
slipping.
just saying there are a lot of guys down there. Reggie Wayne, Macklin. There's a lot of guys.
So how about Brandon Cooks?
No.
Brandon Cooks is going ahead of Golden Tate. That's insane.
Well, those people are
Emmanuel
mad.
Sanders, I think, is
people
insane.
are mad.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think he could finish above your boy Kendall Wright too.
Oh, wow. We're going back to this argument from yesterday. Thanks a lot, Nick.
I think he could.
All right. You know what? We need to move on. We talked too much about the 2014-15 Detroit Lions. Tune in tomorrow when Nick goes crazy when we discuss the Chicago Bears.
I don't go crazy as it is.
You're going to go. He got mad before the show.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to stay silent the whole time.
That'd be pretty funny.
Can we drink 4 days for the show?
No, we can't drink Fortes for the show. Not going to happen. All right, so we're talking about a mock draft that we've been doing all week. The Star Fantasy League's family decided to do a mock draft. It was Zach, Nick, Jason, and myself through 6 rounds, which is what we've done so far. Zach, we're going to go through over all 4 teams, and I want to know what you think of your team as is, and then we'll give the picks that you had going forward. Zach, you got Megatron, Julio Jones, Peyton Manning, Bishop Sankey, Frank Gore, and Kyle Rudolph through 6 rounds. How you feeling?
I love it. I'm very pleased with how I've set things up here going forward in the draft. No problem.
That's all I needed to hear. Nick, Gio Bernard, AJ Green, Pierre Garçon, Aaron Rodgers, your boy, Roddy White, and Fred Jackson. How are you feeling going to round 7?
One thing I am worried about is Pierre Garçon. I'm not so sure about that.
Because
Washington
RG3
offense
looked horrible.
Yeah, I am a little worried about that. But other than that, I do like it.
All right, Jason, this one we're going to have some problems with. Demaryius Thomas, Brandon Marshall, Drew Brees, Trent Richardson. Wow, I don't know how to get to Terrence Richardson. Larry Fitzgerald, and Jordan Reed. I hate this team.
You hate that team.
His number one running back through 6 rounds is Trent Richardson, and he has nobody else behind him.
Well,
he's in trouble.
I think you're way off there. Demaryius Thomas and Brandon Marshall and Drew Brees, those are your top 3 players right there. That's not a bad thing to have at all in a PPR
He's going
league.
to have trouble finding a running back every single week to start.
I think Trent Richardson still has a great opportunity to improve, greatly improve.
He does have a great opportunity, but he is a pretty high-risk guy. Jordan Reed, for whatever reason, I talked to you about him, a little concerned about him.
Yeah.
We'll see what other running back he takes and how.
What about Larry Fitzgerald? I mean, I know that he's not the Larry Fitzgerald of 1,500 yards, but as your flex, that's a great receiver to have.
You still need a rounded team, and I'm a little skeptical.
I want to see what's available for running back.
We'll see what RB he takes.
Yeah, we have 3 more rounds to talk about. And then my team, Monty Ball, Marshawn Lynch, Andre Johnson, Jordan Cameron, Keenan Allen, and Kendall Wright. I know Nick hates every single one of my receivers for some reason.
Oh, I
except
do not.
Andre Johnson, obviously.
Andre Johnson, I think, is great. I think Kendall Wright's still great.
Hater.
And I'm not a hater.
He hates Keenan Allen. He told me that to my face.
The one thing I would say is Marshawn Lynch in a PPR league. I'm not so sure about that.
Okay. As my second running back, I think I'm gonna be okay.
All right, that's fine.
All right, so we're heading into round 7 here, which is where what are your strategies going into round 7 through 9? Because I know this is a little bit of a difficult portion of most drafts.
Well, unfortunately, in our draft, all the tight ends just started getting picked off the board. Otherwise, this is where I would really start looking at a tight end.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that Kyle Rudolph, you took Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah, because I had to.
Yeah, exactly. And I felt the same way. I was like, well, at this point, I'm really not sure who to take, so now I'm just going to start plucking off the best player on the board.
7th, 8th, 9th round, I'm looking for my tight end usually if I don't take somebody
if you don't take a top,
yeah, if somebody doesn't fall to me. Or I'm taking wide receivers usually because this is the prime area, the heart of wide receivers for guys that you can get that can be high-end wide receiver 2s and have a shot at wide receiver 1 range. And then I'm going to start looking at the backup running backs.
All right, so for round 7, Zach started first with Reggie Wayne. Then Nick went Wes Welker. Jason went Maurice Jones-Drew. That's his second running back. And I went Julian Edelman. Any problems there, concerns?
Yeah, Maurice Jones-Drew is a bunk pick.
That's his second running back. Like, that's what I'm saying.
The only hope that he has
he's in trouble.
is that Darren McFadden is completely irrelevant and Maurice Jones-Drew.
That's going to be a committee.
From what I saw, MJD was supposed to be the first back in this offense.
He is.
He's
this
gonna
is
be.
still my least favorite split that I see.
I mean, I agree, but I also think that Maurice Jones-Drew is getting a bad rap right now. I don't think injuries were that big of a problem for him in his career.
All right, this is a guy I want to talk about. Round 8, I picked up D'Angelo Williams. That's a split I absolutely hate. Jason went Jeremy Hill for his third running back. Nick went Golden Tate, and Zach went injury-prone Jeremy Maclin.
Injury-prone. He had one injury his whole career.
Injury-prone. He's already had knee problems this offseason. How are we feeling here?
I feel great about it. I got him in the 8th. I got him in the 6th pick of the 8th round.
How much do people hate my D'Angelo Williams pick? I actually think because that offense is so bad at receiver that he could have an uptick.
Yeah, I guess. I wouldn't disagree with you there. I mean,
he's my
it just drives
running
me
back.
crazy because
I completely disagree.
It's just there's not just 2 running backs. There's Mike Tolbert taking away running.
I despise D'Angelo Williams.
Yes,
he
we know.
is so middling. He never gets you more than you think could happen, but he could always do worse.
I feel like he's a guy that I'm going to play exactly 2 weeks out of the season, and they're on my my other running backs bye weeks, and that's it. All right, so round 9 before we round this out is Zach took Devonta Freeman. Here's a backup. Nick took Terrence West. There's a backup. Jason took your boy Sammy Watkins, and I finally went quarterback with Tom Terrific. That's why I said I was waiting for quarterback.
You know, I was high on Tom Brady coming into the season, but after watching him in the preseason, he really does look like he's showing signs of age.
Oh, stop that.
He is throwing ducks, dude.
It's
the
bad. Preseason.
It's not good.
He hasn't even gotten detoxed yet from his partying in the offseason with Giselle.
Oh, yeah. Those martini parties must have really hurt him.
With his farmer outfit.
I was going to say, we got him in, what was it, overalls in a picture? We got him at Carnival. He's hugging a sheep. What is going on with Tom Brady these days? I don't know. I'm sure we'll figure it out after the break. And you're listening to the Star Fantasy League show on 105.5 The Team.
You're listening to the Star Fantasy League show. Contact the StarFantasyLeagues.com guys via Twitter at SFL Show.
We are back, and we've spent the break doing something ridiculous yet again. I mentioned Tom Brady hugging goats, and Nick apparently had never seen the modeling photos with Tom Brady hugging a goat.
I can't believe I haven't. My life is now complete.
Yeah, go onto the internets and type in Tom Brady goat, and you will be laughing for
and
probably
Tom
5
Brady
minutes.
dog as well, because those are some good ones.
I literally have tears streaming down my face. I've been laughing so hard.
And
for the past
after
5
you're
minutes.
done laughing at those pictures, go to starfantasyleagues.com, and we are offering our biggest bonus deposit code ever, free14 FREE14 if it's your first time depositing. And if it's not, we have some great other bonus codes for you as well. They're sent out in some emailers. But if you are a new player, free 14, 100% deposit bonus to $2,000. That's right, $2,000, not $200, $2,000, and an $11 free credit into your account. What gets better than that? Try out season long.
This season-long platform is like a dream.
Yeah, do a mock draft with the SFL staff. We're doing them all day, having some fun, and do a season-long league for as little as $10. $10. All the way up to whatever the heck you want. We don't care.
Custom, private.
Yeah, we have custom. We have private leagues. We have games going every half hour, I believe. If you want.
Homegrown.
It's great. If you're local in Rochester, play some leagues with us. We'll love it. We'll love you for it. And maybe we'll take you out to some food locally and talk about it on the air because that's what we love to do.
We do.
All right, let's talk about the last 3 rounds we just did in our mock draft on starfantasyleagues.com. Again, mock drafts. We have them. If you don't want to play yet, just do some mock
Doing
drafts.
them like clockwork.
Yep. In rounds 7 through 9, Zach, you said I wanted to see what your strategy was, and then I'm actually going to say if you did it or not. You said wide receiver heavy. You went wide receiver, running back, so you stuck to it. Nick, again, you went wide receiver, running back. You guys are colluding, I think.
Well, maybe it's because
Great
we've been
minds.
drafting together for 15 years.
Oh,
Great minds.
How cute.
It is cute.
Jason
Should have
went.
seen us in our draft outfits when we were kids.
What?
That's weird.
Yeah, that was a joke.
All right. Yeah. Okay. I'm hoping it was. All right,
I blacked out.
Guess what? There's if you want to type in drafting Nick and Zach, you might find something on there.
Yeah, no, you won't.
No, there's no pictures. Those are digital.
Those are in a shoebox.
Those have been destroyed somewhere. All right, Jason, for some reason, decided to go the exact opposite of what everyone said. Didn't pick running back early and decided to pick 2 crappy ones late. He went running back, wide receiver. I know he can hear us recording the show. His team is terrible.
I don't agree, but okay.
What are you seeing?
Can you go to his team there?
Yes, I can bring up his team. It's not that bad.
His first running back
actually
was
pretty good.
Trent Richardson.
I just have such a concern with Trent Richardson and Maurice Jones.
And then he picked Jeremy Hill. What are you
But
doing?
those aren't. You're not even coming close to his top players. Drew Brees, Demaryius Thomas, who's going to be competing for the number 1 spot. Brandon Marshall, who is also going to be competing for a top 5. And then Larry Fitzgerald, who has been amazing his whole career.
In what strategy is it okay to completely punt your both running back spots?
It's okay if you get top-level wide receivers across the board.
I'm just saying that he's going to need a little help.
Yeah.
He's going to have a rounded team. He's going to need a little help from these guys. Trent Richardson, could he do it? Yes. Could Maurice Jones-Drew do a little bit more than we're expecting?
Meh.
Maybe.
Well,
but that's about all I'm seeing.
Zach, you mentioned well-rounded. We're talking about my 7 through 9. And I went wide receiver, running back, quarterback because I have the most well-rounded team overall.
Yeah, and you would definitely lose if we completed this league.
I 100% agree with that because the end of my draft, I don't like it all.
Well, Tom Brady stinks. Okay. Marshawn Lynch stinks.
You do realize realize I, as a human being, actually, I have a problem with Tom Brady as a player. I have a problem with Tom Brady as a human being. I hate the Patriots, but I still think he can be a top 7 to 8 quarterback.
I think he'd be better off starting Andy Dalton from your bench.
I also have Andy Dalton. We'll talk about that tomorrow on the show.
You just got to hope Gronk plays. Otherwise, he'll settle into 200 yards a game again.
Okay, fine. I'm tired of this negativity. I want some positivity out of you guys. How about 100% the $2,000 deposit bonus on starfantasyleagues.com to play with us on the site?
Okay, you can have that.
Free 14, FREE14 will get you 100% to $2,000 and an $11 credit directly into your account. Season-long leagues have come to starfantasyleagues.com.
Do it.
And if you haven't seen Tom Brady hugging a goat, seriously, this is the end of the show. Go look at it right now.
Google.
Do it. Take care, guys.